Hello everyone. So in this video, I want to talk about this elevation and how we can create something similar to this using Photoshop, okay? So, and I'm gonna only work on a portion of it, not all of it, okay? So I have created this kind of blank document. You can only see the wallpaper over here, so you can go ahead and create one for yourself. And you know how to do that because it's completely similar to what you have done or you are probably going to do in your floor plan. Okay, so I'm not going to go over that again. Let's see what we can create next. So you see we have a pattern or kind of a material over the fridge, right? And I'm going to create something like this that kind of represents steel. Okay, so this is my elevation layer. And first of all, you see that this wallpaper is kind of over the lines in my drawing. So if you pick the pattern or wallpaper and bring it just under the elevation layer, you can see the lines better. Okay, so it does matter where the layers are located, below another layer or just on top of it. Okay, let's start from here. So you need to pick the elevation layer, select it, and then we are gonna select this portion of the drawing, right? So use Magic Wand tool, and then I'm gonna just pick this portion, or you can just easily use this tool instead, okay, instead of Magic Wand tool. So this is my fridge, right? And then because I'm gonna kind of, let's do it again. Because I'm gonna create a pattern on top of it, I'm gonna do it in another layer. So if I wanted to change it or turn it off or on, I can do it without affecting the elevation layer. Okay, so I'm gonna create a new layer and I'm gonna rename it to fridge, for example. And then I'm gonna pick the layer fridge, and the next thing that I'm going to use is the gradient tool. Okay, so if you open this one, right click on it, you can see the other tools that we have: paint bucket tool and gradient tool. Okay, so find the gradient tool and then pick a color like a kind of dark gray or maybe not so dark, so it depends, and then hit OK. So change the color and then pick the gradient tool, and now I need to kind of just click somewhere. Actually, you don't need to change the color over here. So the gradient color, you can change it from here, right? So you can just click over here and then double click on this one at the bottom. And if you want to change it from here. Okay, this one doesn't work. Actually, you need to change the gradient from here. So I'm going to pick a gray color like this and hit OK. And this one, it's kind of transparent right now, or you can set it to white. I'm going to leave it the way it is. And then I'm gonna just click somewhere around here. Do not start from here, okay? I'm gonna click and start from here. You need to, you should not release your mouse button. Just press it and drag your mouse and kind of release it over here. So it doesn't look so good. Let me hit Ctrl Z. I'm gonna make it a little bit darker. So something like this. Hit OK, and I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna go just from here. Maybe it's better. Okay, let's do it one more time. Okay, it looks good. Now, the only thing that you need to do is to bring this fridge layer under the elevation layer so we can see the lines, right? Okay, and you can do the same for this microwave. And you see this white space just around the fridge. When you are selecting the region for creating the wallpaper, make sure to actually select this portion as well, and this portion around the microwave. Okay. Now let's go ahead and do something similar for the mirror frame. Just before that, if you needed to kind of delete the lines in the middle of your mirror that you have created before, you just can go ahead and use this eraser tool. And for example, when the elevation layer is selected, because we have everything in elevation layer, right? So I'm gonna, for example, delete this kind of part. Okay, you just need to select it and then hit delete on the keyboard. So I'm not gonna do that because it affects my wallpaper, but if you have something over here or somewhere else, it's gonna work like this. Okay, so you're gonna get rid of that portion. So, or you can use the erase kind of command over here. It didn't work because the opacity is very low right now. Okay, so let's start picking the frame. Okay, when the elevation layer is selected, I'm gonna use Magic Band tool to select this portion. I'm gonna hold the Shift key on the keyboard to select multiple locations. And then the next thing that I need to do, so I'm gonna create a material, something similar to this. If you want, you can use a solid color or anything. If you are going to use a solid color, you just need to pick a color from here and then use the paint bucket tool. And then before that, make sure to create another layer and, for example, rename it to mirror frame. And then yeah, you can use a solid color tool to create a color. But instead of that, I want to create a material similar to this. So again, I'm going to use the gradient tool. Okay, so I'm going to use the same color and I want to have it some type of shadow. You see, it gives me a nice shadow. So yeah, you can do something similar. If it's too dark over here, you can go back and go farther away from the mirror. Oh, sorry. And then start drawing this. Okay. Something like this. So it looks like we have kind of light over this portion of the frame. Now let's go over the mirror itself and let's create a mirror. Before that, let's take a look at an image. So you see this image of the iPhone and you see this line over here and it kind of shows the reflective surface over here. And we want to create something similar for reflective surfaces, okay? So let's do it. I'm going to start with let's see if we start, whether it's better to start with yeah, I'm going to use a solid color. So I'm going to change it to a kind of blue color, very, very light blue color, okay, something like this. So before that, let me show you. So we want to create something similar to this, okay? So maybe instead of this blue, we can go a little bit toward gray, something like this. Okay. And then let's first pick this portion of the drawing. So again, choose elevation layer, use magic wand tool to select this portion. And then I'm going to use the bucket tool and just put the color over here. Let's make it a little bit lighter. So something like this. Okay, it looks good right now. Now, after you, oh, sorry, I have kind of filled this layer. So I need to create another layer, and I'm going to name it mirror. And now I'm going to put paint inside of it. Okay. And then I want to have that kind of reflective surface, right? So I'm going to use this tool over here, the polygonal lasso tool. So I'm going to pick that. And then you just need to select a portion similar to this. So a line like a 45-degree or something close to that. Pick a line like that. And then I'm going to use this tool. And then I need to erase this portion a little bit. Not completely, but a little bit. So I'm going to use the erase tool and make it big, like what I have right now, or even bigger. So you can use the bracket tool to make it bigger, or on the keyboard to make it larger or smaller. And then make sure to change the settings for the tool, the erase tool. Decrease the hardness to 0. Okay, so decrease the hardness to 0, and then you can change the size, and you can decrease the opacity. Actually, by default it is set to 100. Okay, so decrease it to somewhere around maybe 70, and then just click, and let's see what we have. Okay, so you see we have it, and it's kind of very intensive right now, right? So if you want it to be kind of lighter, come here, and when the mirror layer is selected, reduce the opacity. Yeah, it looks good right now. Yeah. So it represents kind of reflect in the mirror. Okay, and you can do the same with your, if you have a glass table, for example, in your floor plan, you can use the same way to create that. Something, let me show you. So something like this. Okay, so but instead of picking that kind of gray color, use a kind of blue color. And if you want, instead of actually choosing solid color, you can use gradient again. Start drawing. Let's do it. Okay. So for example, here I have an ellipse, and I'm going to pick inside of it. I'm going to create a new layer, and then the gradient tool. So you need to come here, change the color to a light blue. Something like this, for example. And then create a gradient, or maybe like this. Okay, and then again use this tool to, for example, delete or reduce the intensity of this portion. So use erase tool and erase this portion a little bit, and then decrease the opacity a little bit. And this way you can have a glass kind of material for your table if you want, or you can make it wood or something else. And when you decrease the opacity, if you have something below that, like an area raw, you can see that. Okay, let's go back. Okay, next I want to talk about this frame over here. So I have searched in the Google and just picked a piece of art. You can do the same. And you just need to drag it into your drawing, drag it into your file, and then make it smaller to whatever size that you want. So you are not limited to this size, okay? Don't make it small like this, okay? You are not limited to this size that you have created in AutoCAD. And then place it somewhere and then hit this check mark. And if you wanted to change its size again, use Ctrl-T and then make it smaller or bigger. And then it doesn't matter if it doesn't have a frame. We're going to create a frame for it right now in here. So you just need to, first of all, you just need to pick the layer, right click on it, and then create a rasterized layer from it. So it acts like a rasterized image. Okay, so right click and pick this option. And then now you can start working on that. Okay, so double click on the layer. Okay, on this portion. And then we are gonna create a bevel. Not a bevel actually. We're gonna start with a stroke. So click on the stroke and check this. And you see now we have a kind of frame. Now let's make it more realistic. Okay, let me zoom in first on this portion. And then go ahead and click on stroke. And if you want to change the color, you can do that. So I'm gonna pick something dark like this, but not black maybe. And then I'm gonna use the bevel tool. Yeah, you see, so it kind of make it more realistic for me. And if you want to, for example, change the stroke size, you can. Okay, we don't want to have such a frame. Okay, so something like this, for example. And then let's go to bevel again. Okay. So let's play with the angle a little bit. So I'm gonna change it. Yeah, that looks better. What about this side? No, from this side, I'm gonna just, you see the difference when you change the angle? I'm gonna bring it a little bit inside. No. Just keep it on this side. Okay, it looks good to me right now. Now, as you can see, it is so flat and it's like a piece of paper on the wall. So now I want to add some depth to it. Okay, so over here, if we draw some shadows, it looks like it has some depth. So again, you need to double click on the image, on the layer, and then I'm gonna drop shadow. Okay, so you see there's a shadow over here. I'm gonna increase maybe okay, so I'm gonna increase the opacity a little bit. So you see it's getting darker. And if you want, you can increase the distance, but I do not recommend because this number is looking good right now. So if you increase, it's like the frame is far away from the wall. So keep it close, like 5 or 6. And yep. So it looks good to me right now. If you want, you can do the same with this frame. But because it's not an image, so you cannot use this method. Maybe if you want to add depth to it, you can, for example, pick a kind of gray color and then use the this brush and reduce the size. Make it a small. And then opacity, let's see. Okay, so for example, I'm gonna pick, so I'm gonna go over the mirror frame. Okay, so make sure you are not messing up your document by picking the wrong layer. So for example, I'm gonna start from here, and then I'm gonna hold the shift, one click over here, hold the shift, come over here, come down, and then press again, actually click again. So it was so kind of light. I'm gonna increase the opacity. And you see, and I'm gonna click this time over here, holding the shift, and it looks good. If you want to make it darker a little bit, you can. Just something similar to this. And then, okay, now let's talk about the lights over here, like what we have in here, okay? So, just before that, let's add a glass to this picture, okay? So it looks like it doesn't have any glass or reflection over it, right? So it's gonna be again similar to what we have done previously. So I'm gonna pick this portion. Oops. And then I'm gonna create a new layer. So don't forget to create a new layer, okay? And for example, artwork reflection. Oops. Artwork reflection. And then I'm gonna use gradient tool again. And the color, it's okay. Let's go and do it. Okay, now I need to reduce the opacity. So it looks like it has a glass, right? It is not that sharp anymore. And then the next thing that I need to do is to, again, use this tool, and I'm gonna create a reflection line over it. So it's like we have the window reflection over the frame, over the picture. Okay, so I'm gonna create something like maybe this. If you hold the shift key, you can draw a straight line, okay? So, and then use the erase tool, and I'm gonna erase, not completely, but somehow. Maybe I need to do it more. Actually, I need to increase the opacity. And then delete this portion a little bit. Yeah, something like this. It looks good. Okay. Now let's talk about this light over here. So for that, you need to use this tool. And then I'm gonna just pick, let's zoom in a little bit more. Hold the shift. And then something maybe like this. Hold the shift key. So I want to try to have a symmetric kind of shape. Okay. So now I'm going to create a new layer. Light 01. And then you can either use the gradient tool or use the solid color and paint tool. So you need to change the light, the color to something like yellow color or toward white. So I'm going to pick this one, for example. And then you need to use paint tool or brush. And I'm going to increase the size and just make it bigger than the area that you have selected, okay? And then let's see, let's click and see how does it look like. No. So do not click over here, okay? So go down, 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 and somewhere in the middle, you see the circle? It doesn't go all the way and it doesn't cover all the area that I've selected. I'm going to pick this portion and it will kind of expand to that area because the flow is on 100%. Okay, so it looks very kind of yellow to me. So let's make it like this. And I probably need to increase the opacity a little bit. Maybe more. Nope. Let's increase it again. Okay, so if you want to change the color and make it more white or make it more harsh, actually you can. So again, I'm going to make it more white. You can click twice, okay? And then, yeah, and then you need to come and pick the layer and let's see which one works better. So maybe hard light or change it to overlay. And then you just need to create a copy of this layer. So just select it, right click light 01 or select it from here and then hold Alt and Alt key actually. And if you hold the Shift key, okay, Alt key and then create a copy and you see light 1 copy. So hit Ctrl T so you can rotate it and hold Shift key at the same time. So it kind of locks on certain degrees. And then just place it in the right location. Okay, so you have something like this. And you can create another copy for here. And one more thing, we want to have some kind of radial light over here. So we don't have only light coming from these sides. And for that, again, pick this one. And I'm going to create a new layer, light 3, maybe. And then make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so it's too much. So let's see if we have any difference. You see, there's a difference, but it's maybe too much. So let's hit Ctrl Z and do it again. So you can play with that. I'm gonna pick this, make it smaller maybe, and make sure you are working in a separate layer, okay? And you can change the color a little bit, maybe. And that makes a difference. You may not notice that, but it does make a difference. Okay, so, and if you want to go ahead and create a very light material for the shade, you can, and also for the stand. Okay, so go ahead and do that. And if you had actually added a plan, you have a plant in your drawing, so if you want, you can just select it and delete it and then bring something more realistic like this into your drawing, okay? And so it looks like it's too much. I'm gonna turn it off. So again, like what we had in the video for the floor plan, when you add texture to this sofa, you need to create shadows as well. Okay, so some part of it is darker, some parts are lighter. So you need to create a smooth shadow over it. And as you can see, here we have some shadows just below it, below the table over here, somewhere around here near the plant in pot. And you need to create those shadows. So you see, we have kind of shadow at the corners right over here. Let's go and see what we can do. So we are going to create these shadows on the wallpaper, right? So we need to go and pick this layer, which is the wallpaper layer. And then I'm going to create a layer just on top of it. So when you select a layer and create new layer, it will be located on top of that layer. And then I'm going to kind of make it, clip it to the wallpaper layer. So right click on the new layer. I'm going to type in shadows, for example. Right click and then create clipping mask, and it's going to be clipped to the previous layer, to the layer below that. Okay, so now if I go ahead and, for example, let's pick some dark gray color and use this tool. So if I start drawing like this, you see it is only affecting the background and the wallpaper, right? So you need to do that, and then let's make a kind of lighter gray color, and then I'm gonna decrease the opacity. I'm gonna reduce the size of my brush. Let's increase the opacity a little bit, and then you can come and, while you are in the shadows layer, create some shadows. So pick here, I'm going to hold the shift and click over here. So, and to make it more realistic, and we don't want it to look that gray, right? We need to add a filter over it. So let's see which one works better. Maybe linear burn. Okay, for your shadows, use this one, linear burn, and it looks much better than this, right? So go ahead and create some dark spots. If you want, you can reduce it and just it doesn't need to be too much, okay? So be cautious. It's just fun to have some type of okay. And then here for the table, do the rest of it and make it similar to, it's too much right over here, so I do not recommend that much to be dark actually. So it does look good right now. Maybe this is too much darkness over here, so make it a little bit lighter. And I think that's it. I hope you can create a fantastic elevation using these methods. Goodbye.